What is up, guys? It is Styx here, and today I'm going to be going over Helhest, the new Mythic Limited banner character. This is going to be my first impressions as well as a build based on the limited time we've had her. If you have any suggestions or other ideas, put it in the comments below, and subscribe if you're new. Only about 10% of you who watch my videos are subscribed. Immediately getting into her abilities. Her passive is data conversion. When boosting or healing drones buff or heal allies, they also grant the assisted calculation effect for 20 seconds. Helhest herself always has this effect. Assisted calculation causes dealing damage to combatants to inflict a debuff called data analysis for 12 seconds. When afflicted combatants are defeated, they drop one data fragment which can stay on the ground for up to 60 seconds. Once they are generated, they're automatically absorbed by the nearest drone, then uploaded to Helhest's prosthetic to power her encrypted network. The efficiency of this is dependent on the number of fireteam members you have, so basically the more fireteam members, the less efficient, the less fireteam members, the more efficient. The encrypted network can store up to 48 data fragments, and when the encrypted network has accumulated more than 24 data fragments, Helhest can interact with the drones and consume data fragments to provide allies within a 70-meter radius with one heavy ammo brick. As you can tell, this immediately sets her up to be really good at generating heavy ammo, and this is going to be tied into several of her other abilities. Now let's get into the main ability that she will be using to assist her allies as a support. Rapid deployment is her S1. She deploys a drone 5 meters in front of her. After deployment, it's launched to the target location and hovers in the air for 80 seconds. Holding down the button allows her to deploy a drone at the reticle's position. I recommend deploying it at a specific position. You can control it better that way. There are two types of drones, boosting drone and healing drone. Only one of each type can be present at a time. Casting the ability again raises the drone's level up to a max of level 2. There is a cooldown period between upgrades. Once the boosting drone reaches its destination, it unleashes damage boosting light waves every second towards allies with a 10-meter radius, granting them an ally damage bonus for 20 seconds. Once the healing drone reaches its destination, it links to all allies within 10 meters and heals them over time, depending on the level. The drones also come with an auto fire module, so every 4 seconds they will shoot out a little arc projectile that will deal damage, and they're automatically recalled as soon as you are more than 50 meters away from them, which does restore energy for your rapid deployment, but also, of course, they are now gone, so if you were to throw it to an ally very far from you and then walk away from them, you might lose the ability there. For her S2, we have Salvo. Helhest activates her prosthetic, launching a volley at the reticle position and gaining 3 stacks of the salvo effect, which lets her fire at combatants or terrain to launch another volley. When the volley is fired, Helhest's prosthetic and all mini-drones on the battlefield fire an arc projectile at the reticle position, exploding on hit and dealing damage to combatants within a 6-meter radius. If the max number of drones have not been deployed, the arc projectile fired by the prosthetic gains a damage bonus, dealing an additional amount of arc damage. The arc projectiles her prosthetic launches inflict confined for 3 seconds when they explode. The boosting drone's arc projectiles inflict arc residue. For context, confined renders combatants immobile, so it prevents teleports and stuff. Arc residue is a damage over time. And then the healing drone, whenever it fires a homing healing projectile after a short delay, it grants the ally with the lowest health within a 70-meter radius arc recovery, which heals health every second and it stacks up to 4 times. Now, getting into her super. Helhest teleports a super drone from her base to the battlefield. The drone follows her for 16 seconds, and while it is present, it boosts the damage, bonus, and healing effects of boosting and healing drone by 30%. The super drone also continuously marks the nearest combatant within a 70-meter radius. She can move this mark by firing her weapons, and it fires 20 arc rockets at them once every 2 seconds. Each rocket deals a good amount of arc damage. Additionally, the super drone links to the ally with the lowest health within range and consistently heals them. When the super drone is summoned, it will immediately trigger an auto fire effect from the boosting and healing drone on the field. Afterwards, it reduces the firing interval of their auto attacks by 50%, meaning that they go from firing every 4 seconds to every 2 seconds. This is very powerful. Her first relic trait is short frequency activation. Deploying or upgrading a drone increases the damage bonus and healing potency of boosting drone and healing drone on the field by 200% for 4 seconds. Repeatedly applying this effect extends the duration. This does not take effect while Super Drone is present, so this is a very good neutral game relic trait. Breakneck Collaborator. Allies, including Helhest herself, gets an 40% movement speed buff while within range of a boosting or healing drone. This effect lasts for 8 seconds after leaving the drone's range. This is nice for just general activities in which you need to move quickly, which is something that she, like many other characters without movement abilities, may struggle in. Relic Trait 3, Highlights. Releasing the Super Drone upgrades the Boosting Drone and Healing Drone to max level and refreshes their duration. Additionally, any Boosting Drone or Healing Drone deployed during this period is upgraded to its max level. This is very good for setting up for damage phases because there's a cooldown on the amount that you can get out of setting out your drone. So if you're using your super, you might as well just chuck out one drone on your left, one drone on your right, immediately super. Her weapon mastery is very nice. This is Overclocked Shot. Casting Salvo grants the Overclocked Shot effect. This shortens the draw time of bows and the linear fusion rifle charge times by 50%. In addition to this, all shots that hit combatants also deal an extra 15% arc damage. While it's active, it also grants a weak spot lock-on within a small range while aiming down sights. This only affects non-light bearers. At levels 2 and 3, the damage is increased, and then at level 4, she's considered to have the Overclocked Shot effect, which makes linear fusion rifle shots fired reload one round from reserves. Super, super nice for something like a damage phase. I highly recommend investing in her mastery. Now, for her talents, I'm going to highly recommend that if you are invested in this character, you get her talent 1. This causes her rapid deployment to go from 2 charges to 3 charges. It also causes your first drone, whenever your charges are at max, to instantly be upgraded to its maximum level, which means that in terms of neutral game, you have enough charges to fully upgrade both of your drones right from the start, instead of having to wait to ramp stuff up. This can also be really helpful in a clutch situation if you really need to put out some strong healing on yourself or someone else. I think this one will have the most impact on her gameplay in the early levels. Personally, looking at her 2 through 4, which I'll go over real quick. 2, when combatants are afflicted with data analysis, only her own, the encrypted network automatically generates 1 data fragment every 15 seconds. That seems okay. Overclocked shots damage is increased by an additional 20%. That's another okay one. And then reduces the data fragments quantity needed to airdrop a heavy ammo brick to 16. I think she already gives a good amount of heavy ammo, but I could see this being a pretty decent one. And then the stronger ones are infinite firepower at talent 5. The number of salvo stacks granted after casting the salvo ability is doubled. It's increased to 6. And Experienced Elite boosts her drone's max level to 3, which at level 3, their effective radius is increased by 50%. Which is really, really strong. Additionally, as if they needed more than that, when firing weapons to direct the level 3 drones, they will deal additional instances of arc damage equal to 50% of the fire weapons damage. So very, very nice if you are someone who is investing, if you're really lucky, or if you are spending a lot of money. Keep in mind though, aside from her talent 1, I don't think any of these are worth putting the effort into getting if she is someone who you are investing in but are not spending money. I think she's perfectly good at talent 1. And if you've been enjoying up until this point, I stream live on Twitch and YouTube every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday at 9 a.m. EST. If you're interested in following the Twitch, which has a bit more chat interaction and stuff like that, and getting me up to significantly more followers than I have now, use the link at the top of the description. It's free and should be relatively easy to do as long as you have a Twitch account. Now, based on what I was playing her with, which I took her into Onslaught, I took her into some of the master content, stuff like that. I'm still gearing her up and trying to figure out what works best on her, so this is going to be based off of that on its own. From what I noticed, the artifacts that work best for her are Ring of Abundance, which grants a potency effect to healing and overshields received. Only the healing affects her base abilities, but we'll get into the overshields in a moment. Ring of Conversion, which causes 64% of overflow healing from the wielder's own abilities, is converted into an overshield that lasts 6 seconds. There's our overshield. If you don't like this kind of playstyle where you're playing into the healing and stuff like that, especially if you're not solo, which means that other people could be, getting healed and stuff, because they might be the lowest health ally, I would recommend something like Unrelenting Evolution, and then either Unrelenting Ground if you plan on standing still a lot, or Unrelenting Subgravity if you want to be moving around. The issue I have with many of her summoning stuff is that she technically only summons 2 drones, and then beyond that, it's just upgrading them, so I don't believe that that counts. For her third slot, which is one that has a lot of contention between different spots depending on how things go, I chose Inverted Fury. This gives a flat weapon damage bonus while you are shielded. Just generally very nice. Most of her damage is going to be based on her weapon damage, and so if you're going to be picking something, this is good. Other possible options that I think are also good are Calming Token. If you plan on playing stationary, you will deal more damage with this one than you would with Inverted Fury. You just have to be stationary while dealing damage. Works very similarly to my Umeko build. Another option is Courageous Planetesimal. This has more uptime, Then Rampaging Pact, because like I said, Rampaging Pact requires you to summon something, and that only works if you are actually summoning a creature, which we can only do up to 3 times, and that's if we use our super. Beyond that, it's upgrading or resummoning, which might make it have not as much uptime as one would like. So Courageous Planetesimal leads to casting any ability, grants a damage bonus for 10 seconds. Very easy to keep this one up, especially if you have our talent 1. Another pretty decent option for team play specifically is Talisman of Unity. You could use this, which then causes healing a target to 100% health, grants them an extra damage bonus on top of whatever damage bonuses your drones are doing. So both your healing drone and your damage boost drone are giving damage bonuses. For her final slot, I'm going to recommend the Bellicose Planetesimal. This causes casting your signature abilities to give you a 24% weapon damage bonus for 6 seconds. Main thing here is it's based on casting your ability, not based on something related to your summon. I think this is overall very nice and consistent for dealing burst damage. If you wanted another potential option, there is Resonating Pact, which when summons attack the same target as the wielder, they deal 28% damage, but I'm not 100% sure how much of her stuff is going to be based on that. So take my words on that specifically with a grain of salt. You could also make arguments for Ring of Reflection here, but for me, the best role I have is Bellicose Planetesimal in terms of what kinds of substats I want, so that made the choice a little bit easier for me, and I've since had a lot of success with it. Speaking of which, for her substats, I'm going to recommend going into Healing Bonus as a big one. This gives increased healing effect. This applies to yourself as well as allies. Weapon Enhancement, which grants primary and power weapon damage, because most of her damage is going to be from weapons. Signature Boost, which causes her abilities to deal more damage and gain more overshield health, etc. Arc Boost to just outright increase her arc damage. Ability Strength, this improves everything about your abilities. Health or Shield Boost are both good. I would prefer Shield Boost because you're trying to remain shielded if you're going with Inverted Fury. Damage Bonus Boost is good because you can increase the damage bonus you give to your fireteam members from both Unity if you're running it and your damage boosting drone, as well as potentially Overshield Bonus and Super Boost. Both of those are pretty decent, even if they're not amazing. For her Light Linked companions, I'm going to recommend running Rossi. This increases the potency of healing and overshields that you receive by 5.2% on this specific setup. If you're not running with the overshields, I would recommend running something like Jolder or maybe Ning Fei to increase the damage you're dealing or reduce the overall damage you're taking. You could also run Umeko if you're trying to increase your debuff timers. And then for your other option, I'd recommend Tan 2, which increases your ability's healing effects on targets with below 50% health by 25%, just generally really nice for a support character. For her weapons, I'm personally going with Royal Contravene because I'm free to play. If you pay to play, Trinity Ghoul probably slaps right now. It looks very good, so I would recommend at least trying it out, but I'm going with a Royal Contravene with the Yoshimoto Mythic. For the Yoshimoto, if you're running it, I recommend running it with Annihilation, which deals more damage as a target's health gets lower. I tried running it with Archer's Tempo, but I realized that once you stack with her draw time decrease, for me, I kept running into some kind of bug related to it instantly firing arrows, but not actually firing them. And then in her second slot, I recommend Ensured Yields. This causes her to deal much more damage because bows all have one shot in their magazine, so it procs extremely easily. If you are running Trinity Ghoul, I recommend using the End of the Line. It's the only linear fusion, and I recommend rocking it with either Fraternity, which causes the weapon to deal extra damage as long as all your teammates are alive, or Trinkled Air. Same deal, as long as your teammates are alive, especially if their shields are not broken, you deal extra damage. And then on your other slot, I recommend Searing Mark. Precision hits will grant your next round fired within 5 seconds extra damage. It stacks up to 5 times. So this basically will benefit you greatly during something like a boss damage phase or high health targets. Overall, it seems like she's a pretty decent character, especially the fact that she is Arc, Support, and Mythic. Our only other Arc Mythic is an offensive currently. Of course, she doesn't have a movement ability, which would be rather nice on her, but she does have something to give her acceleration, which is, by my understanding, a benefit over someone like Tan 2. It also seems like Trinity Ghoul may be amazing for ad clear, so if you run that with a really good roll in the Mythic Linear Fusion, she may turn out to be a better Tan 2 for general content, and things like Calamity Ops that require more specific stuff in them. But we'll have to see on that, depending on how the community is feeling about her. At the very least for me though, she seems pretty good, and I would say is worth pulling. But make all of these judgments based on what you see, what you like, play her trial, play through the introduction of her quest, see if something clicks. That's my general recommendation. I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, subscribe to the channel, follow my Twitch in the description, or use one of those other links down there to help me out if you're interested. If you've watched up to this point, then comment down below, "We live in a pumpkin society." I will show your comments to him and let you know once he has seen them. And thank you all for watching. Have a great day.